this video presentation, I will be exploring my relationship with food. One of the main questions I will be asking will be related to how my relationship with food has changed as I aged. This will bring me to my other research question. How is the current pandemic influencing and changing the role of food in my life? I will explore my connection to food using main anthropological themes such as culture, balanced reciprocity, and kinship. These three terms have played a large role in my lifetime relating to food. First, I would like to explain the basis of my relationship with food. As a young child, it is clear what my relationship with food was. I love food, maybe a little too much. I spent most of my childhood as an overweight, junk food loving kid. I knew very little about food other than the fact that I loved it. Nutritional values and using my food as fuel was a foreign concept to me. Part of the reason that I had these unhealthy eating habits was how I watched TV during most of my snack times and meals. There are many studies that show the impact of distracted eating. Digestion starts even before the food touches your mouth, and being distracted during the process leads to overeating. The Journal of American Dietetic Association recently found that preschoolers of normal weight who often eat while watching television tend to eat more, possibly because they are distracted from the normal cues for fullness. My case may have been influenced by the normalization of distracted eating in American culture. Distracted eating is defined as intentional consumption of a meal while engaged in a secondary activity to the extent that the significance or memory of the meal is diminished or forgotten entirely. My parents did their best to gather us all for dinner, but being a family of 6 often meant dinner on the run. This type of distracted eating is very common in the U.S. Whether it be in front of the TV or behind the wheel, distracted eating leads to unhealthy habits and disruption in digestion. To show the influence my culture has on this, DoSomething.org reports that over 20% of American meals are eaten in the car. As a result, I developed many bad habits related to food. Since my childhood, however, I have learned more about nutrition and learned how to more effectively fuel my body. Through different diets like the ketogenic, Paleolithic, and Mediterranean diet, I have learned that everyone has a different relationship and reaction to food. No one body and mind is the same, and as a result, I have been able to appreciate food in a more complex way. One of the ways I have learned to appreciate food is in its connection to socialization. Socialization is defined as the process of learning to behave in a way that is acceptable to society. The role food plays in socialization is a mechanism of bringing people together. A meal serves as a place where you can learn more about a person and connect with them on a deeper level. Sharing a meal with someone is somewhat of a ritual. Our culture teaches us to trust those who we share meals with. The conversations shared over food are often the ones we remember the most. As I get older, I become much more selective of who I choose to share meals with. I am much more appreciative of the meals I get to share with my family. Having a brother who goes to school in Ohio and a sister who does not live at home has given me the appreciation for the time we do get to spend together. More often than not, these gatherings are centered around a meal. Whether it be a holiday or just a normal Sunday dinner, getting together for dinner is an example of kinship in my family. It is a way for my parents to display their parental care for us. No matter the occasion, it is understood that our parents will pick up the bill. This element of kinship and parental influence is representative of the fact that in American culture, parents provide for their children. As my siblings and I get older, an element of balanced reciprocity is expected by my parents. Balanced reciprocity is the exchange of goods, services, etc., with an expectation of a material return. When we have nightly dinners, it is agreed upon that those who do not cook the dinner will be responsible for cleaning the dishes. This is very important to my relationship with food because it proves that everyone has a hand in the social ritual that we call dinner. From my childhood to now, food has become more of a social tool than just a way to fuel. It has become a way to reconnect with my family and make new connections with friends. It is a way to re-emphasize my parents and their caretaking role in my life. It is also a way to show appreciation and an effort for balanced reciprocity. One experience that changed the way I thought about food forever was my time spent in Florence, Italy. Over 4 months, I was able to learn more about a culture that is centered around good food and wine. It is often said that there are a big three in Italy: calcio, cibo, e vino. Soccer, food, and wine define Italian culture, and it has much different roles in an Italian's life than that of an American. An Italian's whole day is centered around quality food, from lengthy lunch breaks to dinners that bring everyone together. Especially when going to a restaurant, Italians take time to savor their food. While Americans may use food as a medium for conversation, for Italians, food is the conversation. Italians will spend hours tasting food and drinking wine while conversing about anything. Italian culture is defined by their food and meals, and they are much more than just food on a plate. This Italian influence has taught me to appreciate my food as a cultural experience. Every culture has their own food practices, and almost all are used as a tool for socialization. Now that I have explained the role of food in my life, we arrive at the main question: how has the current pandemic influenced my food practices and changed food's role in my life? Food, for me, has represented a sense of normalcy in the face of a world covered in unknown. For me, like most, I turned to food during the beginning of the pandemic for comfort. Being hunkered down, eating my favorite junk food, seemed to make me more comfortable. For other members of my family, quarantining has played a major role in their food practices. My older brother is autistic and extremely routine oriented. Part of his weekly routine includes going out to dinner on Friday nights and folding 50 pizza boxes at the local shop on Sundays. Applied Behavioral Analysis EDU explains that any deviation from any of these particulars, even one almost undetectable to a neurotypical individual, can result in enormous anxiety and tantrums from an ASD patient. In this way, quarantine has changed our food practices dramatically. We compensate for these changes by ordering takeout on these days. As a result of the quarantine, food has become an even greater tool for socialization for me and my family. The shift to online learning has made for heads buried in computers and screens all day long. With my father being a first responder, dinner time might be the first time we all socialize in a day. Dinner time represents an escape from all the craziness in the outside world, a place where we can sit back and watch clip shows on MTV. The pandemic has also made it much more difficult to acquire healthy foods. Grocery stores in Massachusetts have made public health efforts to slow the spread of COVID-19. These efforts include specialized hours for shoppers over 65 years old and only allowing 40% of normal maximum occupancy. This is a massive surge to buying groceries, and it has made a much more difficult experience. Healthier foods are the first to go in the grocery stores, and that generally means junk food is the way to go. This impacts many people's food practices because it can totally change the way people shop. Overall, the global pandemic has had a profound impact on our food practices. Meals are a medium for socialization, but our circles are forced to shrink. Our relationship with food has become a central focus for everyone in quarantine. Finding ways to stay happy and healthy often are connected to food practice. Whether it be sitting down with your family and enjoying a meal, shopping for food, or using food as a tool to feel more comfortable, food is a central aspect of our current situation. When this pandemic finally subsides, I suspect that food will play a large role in reacclimating to society. Asking someone to grab a bite to eat or inviting someone special over for dinner will signal our return to normalcy.